Cosgrove again from the BOGNOR REGIS HERALD, editor no less. Well, you all know that perhaps. Welcome to any new viewers, by the way. These vlogs are about, well, all sorts of things around BOGNOR REGIS. So, I'm not going to talk about Arran District Council tonight, or today, or neither its doings or its misdoings, or all the rest of it. We've had enough of that, haven't we? Yes, of course we have. So actually, I'm going to look at how two other news sources locally handled a particular story. Let's go to Planet Radio. This is the Spirit FM replacement lookalike, and what they reported was this, very straightforward, and I suspect from a Sussex Police press release. There had been some problems with young people gathering in the town, and they'd been gathering in Hotham Park and in the town centre, a little bit of this and that and the other. Nothing specifically wrong, except that there was up to 20 of them, by the way. It didn't say 20 all at once or 20 every time, just 20. There were 5, apparently, who made some damage at Feltham Yacht Club. And that, obviously, the good lady involved in that particular organisation who spoke to Planet was a bit miffed about it, quite rightly. So that was that. There was no mention in the report, by the way, of whether the kids had been spoken to about COVID, having masks on and all this. Wasn't mentioned. Oh. By the way, someone somewhere at Arran or West Sussex or NHS or the Uncle Tom Cobley organisation maybe should look at the issue with regard to, I think it's Bulgarian and Romanian workers who congregate in various parts of BOGNOR REGIS in quite large numbers, no social distancing, no masks. Question: has anyone issued anything in their own languages to them by way of paper or on email or whatever? Facebook, whatever. Answers on the back of a Romanian postage stamp, please. So, how did the other newspaper in this handle the same story? That's the BOGNOR REGIS Observer, that sterling paper with a long, old and distinguished reputation. Well, it sort of mentioned that mindless youths have been terrorising the area. And a Mr. Derek Chester was quoted and obviously spoken to, or spoke to them, or got onto Twitter to make it clear that people weren't doing enough. There was this mindless vandalism caused and terrorising the neighbourhood. Terrorising. And that maybe if the police didn't do their job, the authorities, maybe people would have to start patrolling for themselves. So, vigilante stuff. Is that all right, Mr. Chester, former town councillor at Littlehampton? As a former town councillor at BOGNOR REGIS, let me suggest to you, you take that idea back to a couple of estates in Littlehampton. As a former town councillor at BOGNOR REGIS and former mayor, I think it's a disgraceful idea and disgraceful stuff to start getting the Observer to put. Shame on you, Observer, for doing it. It occurs to me that you remember those riots way back when everyone in the East End of London started rioting and all over London. Just beforehand, a year or so beforehand, youth workers in those very same areas had warned the authorities that the closure due to, what was that word? Remember, what was it? What was the word? That one, the word where we couldn't spend any money anyway, which affected us from 2010 for the next 10 or more years. That they closed all the youth clubs, took all the youth workers away, the detached youth workers, and they were warned by the said youth workers to become unemployed. If you do this, in a couple of years' time, they'll be rioting and causing antisocial behaviour and mischief. Well, let's look at it. Quite a lot of you, I hope, will be people who were able to benefit from youth clubs in this area in your youth, when you were young people. There were, I think, when I came to BOGNOR REGIS in '79, there were 5 or 6 at the time. Everyone remembers 39 Club. They remember the Boys Club or West Slopes Lane Youth Club. They remember maybe Number 18, in Waterloo Square, they will remember North Bursted Youth Club and maybe Pagham Rose Green Youth Club. These were one of number 58 such clubs and so forth across the county, which a county council supported. How many of them left? Well, as to a little while ago in Bognor, there were none left. I was chairman of the number 18 project when we had a little run-in with our landlord, Arran District Council, and actually on safety grounds we had to close the place for good. Yes. So what's the problem then? Well, many of you will have had those youth clubs. And I remember Liz, my wife, saying when she was asked on the fun bus with younger kids, are they committing crime? She said, not when they're on the fun bus. We had very strict rules, Sharia law and other things like that, nailing of hands to the side of the bus and all that stuff, and rules that the kids made up, which were far harsher than anything we ever thought of. So we didn't get crime on the fun bus. What they did outside, well, we didn't know. The same applies to that hormone-infested age range called the teen years, when girls are constantly slugging each other off. I know to my cost now with my granddaughter at the moment, and boys grunted a lot. So they had youth clubs, all those youth clubs, all those sessions. What have we got left now? Well, 39 has reopened a couple of sessions a week, one for the younger kids, one for older kids. The other one that's opened is the Phoenix Centre. This was built with £1 million worth of our money so that all young people could go to them. Most young people can't get in there. Never mind COVID, they couldn't anyway. There are very few youth sessions in this area. As for the ones under 13, well, when I came here, there were 8 summer play schemes round the area, run by the Play Association. Then there was a fun bus, years afterwards, which went all the year round. Now, nothing. Diddly squat. Why? Well, you could say it's the cuts and so forth, or there are less kids, which isn't true, by the way. There are more kids. There are more kids, they're just a smaller proportion. Look at the schools, how much bigger they've had to become. There are more kids and less places and less things for them to play. Now, whose responsibility is it? Well, partly it's down to you and me. I've worked all these years in this area since '79 to get things for kids of all ages. I have to say, and I do have to say, with some pointing fingers all over this area, that not a lot of people came along and bothered. You got your stuff when you were kids because people like me and others, and a small number of us across the area, bothered to go out and do it and get money off the county council. That's one set of people. You're older now, you've got your own kids. No one seems to fought very hard for the kids' stuff to remain. And that is a major accusation I put to the whole community of my age and younger, because we've actually left it. We've been too interested in our own issues. Kids don't play in the streets anymore, not because it's dangerous. It might be. Most streets they played in, I played in, you played in, were residential streets and cars didn't go through them. Most kids don't play in streets now because there's too many parked cars. Anyway, that's another item. Let's go back to our county council. They stopped spending money. Oh, we're too poor, they say. Well, Councillor X and Councillor Y, who serve in this Arran district, between two councils that you serve on, you get, one of you, 42,000 a year, or a couple of you do, 42,000 a year in allowances for what is a voluntary position, and another one gets £32,000 for doing the same. Others get a minimum at Arran of 6,500. Then, when I was at the town council, we got 500. I wouldn't take my allowance. I put it towards running a play scheme. There were 3 of them in a row. When the town council added some more money, because I twisted their arms and threatened to send the boys round to break fingers, so that we actually got play scheme in the West Lowes, the boys' club area. So it can be done, but it's not good enough. This is all voluntary effort, or people like me or others making a gesture, donations from trusts. What is actually the problem here is that the county council and I tell you, chapter and verse, if you want it, is breaking the law. They are there to provide a service for not only 13 plus age group in terms of youth provision, but for the under 13s. It's an Education Act 1996 as modified, says C. Clever Clogs, by the Education and Training Act 2006. There has to be a sufficiency of provision. And that applies to individual kids who've got disabilities. It's not to a whole mass of kids, and we can only pay for so many. It's supposed to be a sufficiency. And they are supposed to, by the way, before they run their own clubs, put the money towards helping the voluntary sector do it. Which were the first ones to be cut? Oh, the voluntary sector. How remiss of me. Look, Arran councillors, you lot, between you, you get £250,000 a year in allowances. You want to make some changes, put money in other places. Unless you desperately need it, you shouldn't be taking it. That's my view. It's not a paid job. It's a voluntary job. And so that's one place I'd tell you to cut. And if I were standing for council, I'd make it very plain. Same with county council. They get 11,000 a year minimum. You could run a very good summer play scheme in Bognor for 11,000 a year, and also half-term schemes based at Westloats or whatever. That's just one councillor's expenses. So what are we going to do about this illegal stuff that councils are getting away with? Well, I've been writing and doing freedom of information. Watch the Herald, because this is going to come up again as to what's not being done and how to challenge it. And by the way, it doesn't stop at the county council. This has to go up to the government, which Parliament made the law 1996, spruced it up in 2006. Do they monitor how much local authorities are doing? Do they diddly spot? So what's the point of a law that you're not monitoring, that people can get away with? So, if you want young people to have less opportunity and less inclination to go mindlessly terrorising the area, and you want to discourage elderly gentlemen becoming vigilante groups at great risk to themselves, I suggest that all of us, you and me, I'll do my bit anyway, get our backsides in gear and get youth clubs and play activities open for our children and young people. This is a dreadful time for them. A really awful time. There's nothing in your childhood or mine that will remotely match it, apart from the fact that this is a much harder time to be a child or a young person than when I was a kid. Frankly, when I was a kid, it was a doddle and a dream. It isn't now. I've worked with kids over all these years. I'll tell you what my New Year's resolution is. I'm going to go and beg an electric double-decker bloody bus off some Chinese company who supplied 38 of them to London Transport, and I want a state-of-the-art bus that goes round. Those who went on the fun bus were those dilapidated old jalopy buses, which broke all the sort of probably safety rules and so forth. Only the MOT somehow got us through, including a defective speedometer that didn't work for 28 years. How that got through? Anyway, so it can be done. And the cost, well, apart from a donated bus, it would probably cost us to do a really good one that served probably 4 or 5 communities, morning, and afternoon and evening. It would probably cost us 60,000. So come on, 6 county councillors in this area there, give up your allowances and give it over to something like that. And we'll provide a proper service at a cost that the county council couldn't even imagine. It's there to be done. The kids deserve it. It's important to have it. And if you had it, should they not? Thanks for your time anyway. And, oh, by the way, I haven't toasted your good health. Slange, as they say in some parts of this country.